Last night, Caitlin Clark announced she will miss the remainder of the W season. Clark hasn't played since July 15th, dealing with a groin injury. S.A., your reaction to Caitlin being shut down?
Let's find out what the rest of the WNBA is going to do in terms of popularity. You've been saying up and down that, whether tacitly or directly, that, she's getting too much shine, even though we respect and what have you. We deserve our shine. Well, now's a perfect opportunity for you to prove that.
Just 72 hours after Caitlin Clark announced her shocking exit, the WNBA has collapsed into chaos.
Breaking news, hot off the press. Now, we knew it was going down earlier, bro. Caitlin Clark has just confirmed she is out for the season. Now, where do we go from here? That is where we got to pick up the pieces, bro. She just went online and stated these things. Now, I dropped the video earlier today, kind of detailing everything, going over everything, and letting you guys know that I feel like the front office was doing a bunch of BS with us and not telling us exactly what was going down with Cece. I talked about it earlier. Scott Atkins is going to drop a video pretty much confirming she wasn't coming back.
Viewership is plummeting, ESPN is scrambling, and Stephen A. Smith just went off on live television, blasting Commissioner Kathy Engelbert in front of millions. Fans are furious, players are divided, and the league is staring at its biggest disaster in history.
Then are you willing to admit how stupid it was for y'all not to go all in to elevate Caitlin Clark? And y'all could have reaped the benefits? Higher television ratings, higher attendance figures. Ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't come courtesy of a league. It comes courtesy of the players that play in the league. And in her case, she was the most popular, which means she could have helped your bottom line, which means you should have seen that from day one and maximized it. But you didn't do it. You didn't want to, rather. You were a bit hesitant and reluctant and resistant to it. So much so you didn't push for her to be on Team USA. So much so you had people like Cheryl Swoops who didn't even want to mention her name.
But the question everyone is asking is simple. How did the WNBA let its biggest star slip away and create the worst crisis women's basketball has ever seen? Stay tuned, because this story isn't just about Caitlin Clark. It's about the survival of women's sports itself. The numbers don't lie. The moment Caitlin Clark walked away, the league crumbled. Games that were pulling in record-breaking viewership just weeks ago are now tanking to all-time lows. ESPN executives are in full panic mode. Advertisers who lined up to cash in on Clark's rising star are suddenly calling emergency meetings, demanding answers. And it's not just about ratings, it's about trust.
I'm not going to be out there like RG3 was saying that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark or other players hate Caitlin Clark, but I will say this. I don't think it's specific about Caitlin Clark. I think it's what Caitlin Clark represents. See, it's through no fault of Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark balls. She balled at Iowa in college. She's balled since she's been in the NBA. She came into the league last year with no break whatsoever between the college game and the pro game and did her thing. Ended up as an all-star, ended up being fourth in the league in MVP voting, was the clear winner for Rookie of the Year. No competition whatsoever in that regard when it was really all said and done. We know what she brings to the table.
Fans who tuned in night after night for Caitlin Clark now feel betrayed. Like the league never valued the one player who made them care in the first place. Online, the message is loud and clear. If Caitlin Clark isn't in the WNBA, neither are we. On ESPN, Stephen A. Smith put words to the outrage fans were already screaming. He didn't hold back. He demanded answers. He called it a failure of leadership and put Commissioner Engelbert directly in the hot seat. How? He asked. Can you take the biggest star in WNBA history, the one person who carried this league to new heights, and treat her like she's disposable?
But people wanted to hate because why? You had a bunch of players in this league that watched this young white girl come along and take the league by storm, and they resented it because they saw the marketing prowess that she had. They ignored the fact that you got chartered flights because of this girl. They ignored the fact that ratings were going through the roof because of this girl. Instead, they resented it because they said, yo, we were doing stuff long before Caitlin Clark got here, and y'all wasn't paying attention then. But now, the young white girl comes along, and y'all want to sit up there and shower all of this praise and all of this attention that was earned before she ever came along.
Smith wasn't just defending Caitlin Clark. He was exposing the WNBA's biggest mistake, failing to protect the one player who single-handedly brought the league into the mainstream spotlight. This collapse didn't come out of nowhere. It was years in the making. And Stephen A. Smith spelled it out. The league had no plan, no protection for Clark on the court, where she was targeted, shoved, and bullied.
The golden child, in her second year in the league, who was top 4 in MVP voting last year, the assist leader last year, a galvanizing talent that has done wonders for the NBA. If she is seen to be physically getting abused on a basketball court in a way that is such a clear and flagrant discrepancy compared to what happens to others, that man is not going to say something?
No long-term marketing strategy, even as her games smashed ratings records. No vision for the future, despite seeing millions of new fans tuning in just to watch her play. Instead of embracing Clark's star power, the WNBA leaned into politics, jealousy, and silence. Veterans resented the attention she was getting. Coaches kept quiet while opponents went after her physically. And Engelbert? She stood by and watched as the golden ticket to women's sports slipped right through her fingers. Stephen A. didn't sugarcoat it. He said this wasn't just a WNBA problem, it was a women's sports disaster.
They still had over 2 million views. But they had over 3 million last year. It dropped because she wasn't playing. Now, I told y'all. Candace Parker tried to tell y'all. Rebecca Lobo is trying to tell y'all. The goose that lays the golden eggs. The tide that lifts all boats. Do you know what Gino Auriemma said? He said she's being targeted. I don't remember when Michael Jordan came into the league, guys looking to go out and beat him up.
Caitlin Clark was more than just a rookie. She was a bridge to a whole new generation of fans. Little girls holding up signs in the stands, families watching games together for the first time, ESPN giving the league primetime slots after decades in the shadows. And yet, the WNBA let resentment and egos get in the way. They had the future in their hands, and they tore it up. The backlash has been explosive. Online, fans are vowing to boycott. No Clark, no WNBA has become the rallying cry. Parents who watched games with their daughters are walking away. New viewers who gave the league a chance because of Clark are done. And behind the scenes, ESPN executives are furious. They invested millions into promoting Clark, banking on her to carry the sport into a new era. Sponsors lined up to be part of the momentum. Now, the momentum is gone. Ratings are collapsing. Advertisers are panicking. But perhaps the biggest betrayal is emotional. Caitlin Clark wasn't just an athlete, she was a symbol. She gave young girls hope, inspired families, and made people believe women's basketball could be something bigger. And instead of protecting her, the WNBA exposed her to hostility and disrespect. Stephen A. captured that anger perfectly. He said, "This is a failure of leadership, a disaster from the top down." And he's right. Fans aren't just angry at the league. They feel robbed of the future Clark represented. The truth is undeniable. Caitlin Clark didn't just boost the WNBA, she saved it. She was the heartbeat of the league, the one player who could pack arenas and put women's basketball at the center of national conversation. And now, just days after her exit, the cracks are everywhere. Stephen A. Smith took the gloves off. He said Commissioner Kathy Engelbert failed her. He said the league betrayed the very player who carried it to relevance. And he demanded accountability. Should Engelbert resign? Should the WNBA overhaul its leadership? His answer was clear. This was a leadership disaster, and it started at the top. But the most chilling part of Stephen A.'s rant wasn't about the commissioner. It was about the future. "This isn't just a WNBA disaster," he said. "This is a women's sports disaster." When Caitlin Clark walks away, little girls lose their role model. Families lose the bond of watching games together. and women's basketball loses its greatest opportunity in history. So here we are. The WNBA had a golden ticket in its hands, and it tore it up. Instead of building around Clark, it chose silence, jealousy, and politics. Now the fans are gone, the sponsors are nervous, and ESPN is panicking. The league is calling this a wake-up call, but let's be real. The damage is done, the trust is broken, and unless the WNBA finds a way to rebuild fast, it may never recover. Because this story isn't just about basketball, it's about respect, about how one player carried a league only to be left unprotected and betrayed, and now the whole world is watching the fallout. So what happens next? Can the WNBA survive without Caitlin Clark? Or is this the beginning of the end? Stephen A. Smith made his position clear. Leadership failed, and the league may not recover. But what do you think? Should Kathy Engelbert resign? Should ESPN pull back its support? Or is it already too late? If you believe Caitlin Clark deserves better, hit that like button, subscribe, and join this community, because we're not staying silent. And if you're still watching, drop "Clark deserved better" in the comments to let the world know you stand with her.
Not surprising at this point, but still incredibly disappointing. Caitlin Clark officially done for the 2025 WNBA season, as she and the Fever announced on social media. The Fever and Clark saying that she tried to get back on the floor. It appears that she just ran out of time, not able to get enough confidence back in her body as the season wraps up and the playoffs are likely about to begin for Indiana.
Welp, she's out.
Caitlin Clark just confirmed the news no one wanted to hear. Her season is officially over. The WNBA's brightest star, the player who single-handedly carried ratings, ticket sales, and fan excitement, won't step on the court again this year. And the fallout is already massive.
So it's official. The most heartbreaking news for Indiana Fever fans that could come of the season, but Caitlin Clark will not be returning to the 2025 WNBA season. She took the liberty of posting it herself because there were many people asking to hear from Caitlin Clark, to hear how she felt about the entire situation, because a lot of people felt like it was the front office that was kind of making all of these decisions, but she did end up taking to Twitter and posting this.
Fans are outraged, demanding refunds, calling for boycotts, and putting the league's entire playoff run in jeopardy. But how did it get to this point? How did the WNBA allow its most valuable player to break down after just 13 games? And why are fans blaming the league's negligence more than the injury itself?
Now, this was a quad strain, right? But she's had plenty of injuries this season. They've all been soft tissue injuries. They've hopped from one leg to another. Then she had the bone bruise. A lot of the reporting around this was saying that none of these injuries were related. A lot of the reporting around this also alluded to the fact that it wasn't because of the physicality on the court. There's just, other things going on. There's really no blame was ever placed anywhere for these injuries. No blame was ever placed anywhere. It's basically just a series of unfortunate events.
Clark's injuries didn't happen overnight. It started with a quad strain in May, then a nagging groin issue in June, and by July, it had turned into a full tear. Add in a bone bruise during recovery, and her body simply couldn't take it anymore.
This is on your head, Kathy Engelbert, and the rest of the WNBA Players Association executive leadership who failed to hold officials and players accountable for the barbaric style of play the Fever and Caitlin Clark have had to endure this year. Kathy, resign.
But here's the real controversy. These weren't freak accidents. They were the result of constant targeting on the court, with opponents shoving her into screens, grabbing her jersey, and double-teaming her before she even touched the ball. Fans saw it play out possession after possession, and the refs, they swallowed their whistles. It became so obvious that even the Washington Post wrote about the pattern. Clark was the face of the league, but instead of protecting her, officials looked the other way. After weeks of being listed day to day, Clark finally released her statement.
I had hoped to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play this season. I spent hours in the gym every day with the singular goal of getting back out there. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling. I want to thank everyone who had my back through all the uncertainty. This has been incredibly frustrating, but even in the bad, there is good. The way the fans continue to show up for me. And for the Fever, brought me so much joy and important perspective. I am so proud of how this team has only gotten stronger through adversity this year. Now it's time to close out the season and claim our spot in the playoffs.
I had hoped to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play this season. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I'm feeling. The backlash was immediate. Ticket prices for All-Star Weekend in Indiana, which had been selling for over $200, dropped to under $60 overnight. Fans flooded resale sites, dumping tickets they bought months in advance. Sponsorships tied to Clark lost their shine, and TV ratings began collapsing without her on the floor.
The WNBA is in some serious trouble after major networks look like they're pulling the plug on the league. Well, I'm here to tell you, it looked like the WNBA saga, the little run that they had, is now over. As major networks could be pulling segments from the broadcast, and this current CBA agreement is heating up. This is all what the owners wanted. Now, I am here to tell you, man, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it looked very conspiring to me that the WNBA, pretty much the league as a whole, and all teams might have cohorted together to get rid of Caitlin Clark. Now, we know these WNBA players is trying their damnness to get these big-time paydays.
Even worse, fans realized they'd been strung along. The precautionary injury updates made it sound like she was close to returning, but behind the scenes, her body wasn't responding at all. Supporters felt betrayed, used for every last dollar before the truth came out.
She's been sitting out that long, man. That's how long we've been waiting for Caitlin Clark to come back. And I don't know why they've been lying and trying to act like she's coming back. They're dropping these videos of her practicing, talking about day to day. I'm like, fam, the injury does not look good. The injury does not look good. Why are y'all even playing? Why are y'all saying day to day when it looks like an end of the season? Why? Why even? And then you kind of have to think about it, man. This validates some of the speculations that people were saying they're dangling Caitlin Clark in front of them just for some money.
Commissioner Kathy Engelbert had a chance to step up, admit mistakes, and promise change. Instead, her statement read like a PR script. Vague optimism, talk about league growth, but no accountability for the refereeing failures that left Clark unprotected. That disconnect lit the fire even higher. Longtime fans called her comments a betrayal.
CC's out for 2 weeks. Now's a good time to boycott the WNBA. Look, there's another one right there. There's the foul that wasn't called on Natasha Cloud. Boycott the WNBA. A lot of people are saying this is the time. That this is the time. They're not going to tune in while she's out.
Hashtags like #BoycottWNBA spread across social media with proof of canceled tickets and refund demands. Analysts joined in too. Colin Cowherd admitted he stopped covering the WNBA once Clark was sidelined, saying flat out, "She's the reason anyone was tuning in."
There's a unit or a portion of the media that is very pro-WNBA to a fault. And then there's those of us that are realistic. How many times have you watched WNBA games since Caitlin Clark got hurt? Now think about this. It led our show last summer.
A bunch.
Oh, I think I led with it 6 times. I led with the WNBA. And either way, I talk about what I think is interesting. You notice I didn't talk about it this year? It's not because I suddenly disliked the league. I thought it was growing. Anybody that wants to argue this, you're off your rocker. Caitlin Clark is the league. I don't know what the ratings are. I haven't read them, but I know last year with Caitlin Clark, I would, if the game was on, I would drive home making a point. Hey, when's that game on?
I would watch it on my phone in the car. So you could listen, not watch, I'm driving, but you could listen to it in the car. and that's just not happening.
It became clear this wasn't just an injury. It was the collapse of the WNBA's business model. Caitlin Clark's season-ending injury has become a symbol of everything wrong with the league. The WNBA wanted record profits, packed arenas, and new sponsorships. But when it came time to protect the very player responsible for that growth, they failed. Fans see Engelbert and league leadership as prioritizing money over health. And now, the boycott threatens to gut playoff attendance and slash TV ratings at the very moment the WNBA wanted to showcase growth. Even in her frustration, Clark showed class in her message, thanking fans, praising her Fever teammates for battling through adversity, and promising she'll return stronger in 2026. Players like Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, and Lexi Hull are still competing, but there's no denying the season has lost its biggest draw. The bigger question remains: can the WNBA survive without protecting its stars? Because if fans lose trust now, the league risks undoing all the momentum Clark brought with her. Caitlin Clark's injury isn't just a personal setback. It's the result of league negligence, officials refusing to protect her, leadership refusing to hold anyone accountable, and fans being strung along for months. Now the WNBA is paying the price, with boycotts and empty seats looming over the playoffs. So what do you think? Is the WNBA to blame for Caitlin Clark's season-ending injury? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're still watching, comment Clark Strong to show your support.
Lexi Hull, you are one tough cookie, getting elbowed by Kayla McBride one game, head-to-head collision with Gabby Williams the next game, and you don't complain, you don't whine, you don't flop, you don't beg for calls. You get up and you carry on about your business.
Lexi Hull walked onto the court with 2 black eyes and walked off with a busted lip.
And now she's sporting the bloody lip. She is as tough as they come.
Yet somehow, she destroyed Angel Reese's Chicago Sky and became the face of Indiana's most brutal win of the season, all without Caitlin Clark. But the real shock? What Hull revealed after the game has every WNBA fan buzzing right now. The Indiana Fever weren't supposed to be here. Their rookie sensation, Caitlin Clark, had just gone public with the crushing announcement that her season was over.
Not surprising at this point, but still incredibly disappointing. Caitlin Clark officially done for the 2025 WNBA season, as she and the Fever announced on social media. The Fever and Clark saying that she tried to get back on the floor. It appears that she just ran out of time, not able to get enough confidence back in her body as the season wraps up and the playoffs are likely about to begin for Indiana.
A stubborn groin injury never healed, and in her own words, she admitted, "Disappointed isn't a big enough word." That single update flipped the entire playoff race on its head. Without Clark, the Fever looked like a team destined to collapse. But it wasn't just Caitlin. Sophie Cunningham was out. Sydney Colson was sidelined with a torn ACL. Chloe Bibby and Ari McDonald were gone too. In total, Indiana lost nearly an entire rotation to injuries. And yet, the schedule didn't wait. The Fever sat in 8th place, clinging to playoff life by a thread. Every game mattered, and every possession carried weight. One stumble could open the door for the Los Angeles Sparks to snatch their spot. Meanwhile, their rivals, the Chicago Sky, came into the matchup, unraveling in their own way. Angel Reese, the rookie who built her reputation on toughness and rivalry with Clark, wasn't even available. She'd been suspended after tallying her 8th technical foul of the season.
Angel Reese receives her 8th tech, which will prohibit her from playing against the Indiana Fever. And 2, she's in some pretty hot water with her teammates about the Chicago Tribune article.
For Chicago, the absence symbolized chaos. For Indiana, it was an opportunity. That's the backdrop. A broken roster, a playoff race on the line, and Angel Reese sidelined as Indiana prepared to face Chicago. What happened next turned into the most dominant performance of the Fever's season. Lexi Hull didn't just play, she embodied Indiana's fight. She walked into the game still carrying 2 black eyes from a brutal collision with Gabby Williams just a week earlier. By the time the final buzzer sounded, she added a split lip courtesy of Camila Cardoso. Bloodied, bruised, and battered, but absolutely unbreakable. While most players would have begged for a seat on the bench, Hull never flinched. She strapped on her sneakers, battled through pain, and gave the Fever exactly what they needed: toughness. Every possession she played screamed resilience, and that energy poured into the entire team. Indiana didn't just edge out the Sky, they dominated them. The Fever crushed Chicago by 20 points, completing a perfect 5-0 season sweep. Average margin of victory, 24 points. That's not just winning, that's humiliation for Angel Reese's squad. Kelsey Mitchell led the charge, scoring 20 points while also dishing out 8 assists.
A whole bunch of new things. Oh, Kelsey Mitchell, she's 3 for 3 to start tonight.
She wasn't just hunting for her own shot. She set the table for her teammates all night long.
Will she add to it? Whips it back for Dantas. Kelsey Mitchell putting on a show here.
Right behind her, Natasha Howard delivered one of her best two-way games of the season, with 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 steals. And it didn't stop there.
Saying that little bunny, just the possession before, comes up through the contact, goes straight to her chest.
Aaliyah Boston held strong in the paint.
Chicago's strong rebounding night as Boston spins and gets it to go.
Odyssey Sims gave them spark plug minutes.
Oh, it's Howard finding Sims, who finishes tight quarters. Just a monumental day for Pacers Sports and Entertainment. Here's Howard on a kick out. Odyssey Sims hits the 3, and Indiana continues to be red hot here.
And Aerial Powers chipped in with relentless energy off the bench.
Powers, shot clock down to 4. Powers pulls up and hits.
In total, 5 different Fever players hit double figures. That balance told the real story. This wasn't about one star. It was about a team buying in. The stat sheet said it all. 27 assists compared to only 9 turnovers. That's efficiency. That's chemistry. That's a team refusing to fold, even with half their roster missing. And all the while, Lexi Hull, face bruised, lip bleeding, became the symbol of it all. Lexi Hull's box score didn't jump off the page, but anyone who watched the game knows she was the story.
Again, Hull catch and shoot, she connects.
Playing through 2 black eyes and a bloody lip turned her into a living symbol of what Indiana basketball has become.
Turner gets inside, kick out. Hull who buries a 3.
Hull wasn't out there chasing sympathy. She wasn't making excuses. She simply showed up, locked in on defense, and refused to come out of the game. Every possession she hounded Chicago's guards, contesting shots, absorbing elbows, and never backing down. Her defense glued the Fever together when so much else was missing. And she's not just a stopgap. Hull is having the best season of her career. Career highs in points, rebounds, steals, assists, and already more than 50 made threes on the year.
Here's Boston. Off to Hull. Her 3 is good.
Third in the league in 3 percentage. You got to stay with it.
Now with 12 points, here's Clark. Looking to shake Corsten. Clark sings a pass. Hull on the wing. Connects.
She's not a role player filling space. She's a rising star, finding her voice at the exact moment the team needed someone to step up. Her head coach, Stephanie White, put it best. She said Hull epitomizes exactly what the Fever want to be: resilient and fearless. That's not just praise. That's recognition that Hull sets the tone for this roster. And then came the moment that sealed it. After the game, reporters asked Hull about the bruises on her face. She smiled and said that every day, the Fever play for their injured teammates, that they fight together no matter what. In one sentence, she captured the identity of this entire Indiana team. Blood, bruises, toughness, and unity. That's the culture Lexi Hull represents. While Indiana was building a culture of toughness, Chicago was crumbling in public. Angel Reese, the face of the Sky and Caitlin Clark's fiercest rival, wasn't even on the court. She'd been suspended after racking up her 8th technical foul of the season, leaving her teammates to face Indiana without their emotional leader. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. On one side, a Fever team missing 5 key players still refusing to fold. On the other, a Sky squad unraveling under the weight of mistakes, fouls, and internal chaos. Fans didn't miss the symbolism. Indiana didn't just beat Chicago, they embarrassed them. A 5-game sweep, with every matchup turning into a reminder of just how far apart these franchises are. Angel Reese's absence only magnified the humiliation. Her team looked lost, while Lexi Hull, battered and bloodied, defined Indiana's dominance. And here's the kicker. This wasn't about Caitlin Clark. For the first time, the Fever proved they could thrive without their superstar. They built an identity that survives even when the spotlight shifts. And that identity just handed Angel Reese and the Sky another crushing defeat. The Fever didn't just win, they sent a message. Their 97-77 blowout wasn't about a single game. It secured control of their playoff destiny. With that victory, Indiana swept the Chicago Sky 5 straight times this season by an average of 24 points. That's the largest season-long point differential between 2 teams in WNBA history. Humiliation doesn't even begin to cover it. At the center of it all was Lexi Hull. Her battered face and bloodied lip became the image of Indiana's rise. She wasn't the leading scorer, but she was the warrior fans couldn't stop talking about. In one night, she turned into the heartbeat of a roster that refuses to quit. And here's the bigger picture. This is just the beginning. The Fever have built a foundation of resilience, balance, and trust. Imagine layering Caitlin Clark back into that when she's healthy. A team already proving they can survive, without her, suddenly gets their superstar back. That's not just scary for Chicago, that's terrifying for the entire WNBA. The contrast with Angel Reese couldn't be sharper. While Reese sat suspended, her team fell apart. While Hull bled for her teammates, the Sky looked disorganized and defeated. 2 rookies, 2 very different paths. One rising into a symbol of toughness, the other drowning in controversy. Lexi Hull didn't just destroy Chicago, she redefined Indiana's identity in front of the world. So here's the question. When Caitlin Clark returns to this version of the Fever, who's going to stop them? If you're still watching, drop Hull the Warrior in the comments to show your support. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this Fever story is only just getting started.